Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Banter with Brooke. Thank you for joining me this week. My name is Brooke. I'm the host of this podcast, and thanks so much for clicking on this video. Let's just get right into it. I don't know why my hair is doing this, but as you can see from the title and thumbnail, this episode is going to be all about setting boundaries. And I think it is super important to do that, especially, well, for a lot of different reasons, but also it's a lesson that I've had to learn later on in life, definitely in middle school and high school. I was a very, starting off spicy with a burp. I was very much a people pleaser. I let everybody just walk all over me all the time. I had no self-respect, which basically that's what boundaries is. So the first point I wrote down is that you can set boundaries with anyone. I feel like a lot of people automatically associate boundaries with relationships, like romantic ones, like you need boundaries in your relationship, but you can set boundaries in your friendships, in your romantic relationships. Especially, I think this one might be the most important one, is with family members. A lot of people's family members feel very entitled to do certain things. Especially, this just came to mind, like a lot of people, like if their kids have kids, right? And then they're like, well, I'm the grandma, so I can do this. It's like, no, just because it's your grandchild doesn't mean you can do whatever you want. Like the mom or your son or daughter, whoever it is that has the kid, they still can set boundaries. So, and you should respect them. The next thing I wrote down is just the definition of what it means to set boundaries, just to get a little baseline to make sure that, again, it's pretty common sense. I think a lot of people know what that is, but just the true, real definition. Setting boundaries are the limits and guidelines you establish to define what you are. Okay, let me restart that. Boundaries are the limits and guidelines you establish to define what you are and are not comfortable with and how you expect to be treated, both physically and emotionally, to maintain healthy relationships and protect your well-being. So, yeah, basically, you got to set limits and guidelines to establish what you are and are not comfortable with. And it also is letting people know how you expect to be treated physically and emotionally to protect your well-being. So that is what setting boundaries is. And people do not always make this easy to do, especially if you are in a toxic relationship. Some people may make you feel guilty or think it's not a big deal. Like if they don't think it's a big deal to them, they won't respect your boundary because they don't care, or they just don't respect you. Like if they just don't even acknowledge your boundary or care to respect your boundary, then they gotta go. Like, I don't know what to tell you, but it is so easy if someone tells you not to do something to just follow and listen to that boundary. Especially if you care about the person, you would make sure that you don't want to ever make them uncomfortable or upset. So you would listen to that boundary. But sometimes when you have shitty, toxic people in your life, they will make you feel or try to make you feel guilty for setting certain boundaries. And that's just not the case. So the next thing, oh, well, actually goes right what I just said. If someone doesn't follow your boundaries, they don't respect you. And I know that's a hard pill to swallow because usually the people you're trying to set boundaries with, because obviously you don't set boundaries with a stranger, because I mean, unless a random stranger comes up to you and like tries to touch you and you're like, do not fucking touch me. But that's just like, that's easy to do because that's a stranger. So usually it's harder to set boundaries because you don't want to upset someone because it's either your family member, your friend, or your romantic partner. But if your family member, your friend, or your romantic partner does not respect a boundary you're trying to set, then that means they don't respect you as a person. Because, like I already said, if they cared about how you felt, if they would not want to ever make you uncomfortable, ever make you upset. So they would respect the boundary. And if they aren't listening to your boundary because it either doesn't affect them or they think it's stupid or whatever the reason is, I would cut that person off because it's literally just about basic respect. And I was going to talk more specifically about boundaries in romantic relationships because there can be a lot. And I was actually having a conversation about this with people in my life recently because these one people that I know were talking, they like posted on their story, like, who wants to have a threesome with me and my boyfriend, whatever. And it just made me like, I was like, oh my God, look, this is so awesome. I was showing my sister because like I just thought that was so funny. Like they just posted that on their main story. And everyone in the car was like talking about just like threesomes in general or like open relationships and stuff. And they were saying how that's not like a form of love. Like, why would you just want, or like open relationship? We got on the topic of like open relationships and how like, how is that even considered love? Like, you're just like with a bunch of people, whatever. But I was trying to explain to them that like if both parties agree and that is their boundaries and that's what they like to do, then there's nothing wrong with that just because you don't agree with it. And I personally, I don't not agree with it. I think if other people want to do it, I personally want to be in a monogamous relationship, but people who don't, if that's what they like to do and that works for them, who am I to care? So that is all what boundaries is. You have to talk with your romantic partner about what you are and are not comfortable with, what things you're open to trying, what things you're not open to trying, your turn ons and turn offs, all of that. And if if something's a deal breaker, then you can end that relationship. But if it's not a deal breaker, then but it's something you don't really like, just communicate. Literally, that's all it is. It's about communicating. And maybe over time, someone might get more comfortable and like remove a boundary, whatever. Cause that's the thing too. I feel like a lot of people forget that like you can change your mind. Shocker. Like, I don't understand how people think everything has to be so labeled and so set in stone because somebody could say that they were open to a threesome, whatever, and then later on they realize they don't want to anymore, and then you can't get mad at them for that. Like they changed their mind, and you have to respect their wish. Same with, say, I don't know. It's hard, and it's definitely very much case by case based. Like you have to just communicate with whoever it is you're trying to set the boundary with. But in this case, I was talking about romantically. You just have to communicate with your partner, and is it okay with them? Is it not? And if it's something they don't like or want, then you either break up or you respect the person's boundary. The next thing I wanted to say is that it's okay to say no to somebody and go with your gut because, like I already mentioned earlier, A lot of people will not make it easy for you to set a boundary. They will either make you feel bad for it, make you feel guilty. But if you are setting a boundary and you're being so kind about it, so nice, you are literally just saying that, hey, this kind of bothers me, whatever. You should not feel guilty at all. You should just listen to your gut and set that boundary. I know saying no is hard, especially to the people you love, because if they want something, but if you really don't like it, and if like, you just have a gut feeling that it is not something that you're comfortable with, you have to communicate that. Otherwise, that's another thing too. I think people forget is people usually aren't mind readers. I mean, I think there are some people who are. I'm sorry, guys. It's so late. I keep filming late at night and I am regretting my choices. But literally, like, oh, what the hell was I even saying? Oh, yeah. I think I was saying it's hard to say no, especially when you love someone and you want to like make them happy. But at a certain point, it's like you have to put yourself first and you just have to be open and honest and have that communication because oh yeah, I was saying mind readers. Not everybody's a freaking mind reader. So you can't just go along with like you can't just do something and then if you don't say it makes you mad. You can't get mad at the person. Like you have to communicate these things and elaborate to your partner, explain how you feel, express your emotions and let them know that something bothers you. You can't just let them guess how you're feeling. Otherwise, yeah, your boundaries are going to get crossed because you've never really truly expressed them. So make sure you are placing your boundaries in place and expressing them. And remember that it's okay to do so. And it's okay to say no to things or to people. And just go with your gut feeling. Always trust your intuition, trust the universe, and trust yourself. Another big way to help your boundaries come across better is to communicate clearly, respectfully, and to avoid placing blame. Try not to be like, well, you do this, so it hurts my feelings, or or you do this and it bothers me, whatever. A lot of people won't listen as well to that because people have trouble taking accountability and owning up to making somebody feel a certain type of way. They don't, if they hear that they like did something wrong, like, and you're mad at them, they will usually, people will get defensive and not listen to what you're saying as well because they feel attacked. So if you communicate clearly and respectfully and just say exactly how you're feeling, why it bothers you, and you say it in the nicest way possible, and you try and say it just it's has something to do with me. I don't like the way it makes me feel. Try not to say like you doing this bothers me. Just be like, I don't know why, but like, well, okay, there's like clear fucking things. Like if they're like literally like trying to cheat or trying to do like something crazy, obviously that's not a you problem. That's like completely a them problem. But usually a boundary is something as simple as just like I'd rather you not say this or whatever. And also there's certain boundaries too. Like again, it's so hard because it really is like case by case. But also, like I said, if you just like if something's a deal breaker for you and you don't like it, because I was just thinking about like, okay, because I don't ever want someone to like try and control me in a relationship. Like I don't want a guy to be like, you can't wear that because it makes me uncomfortable. That is something that I'm not comfortable like because obviously I'm not gonna wear anything like super crazy, but like there's people who don't even care like at all what their partner wears and they just like are completely secure, they're fine with it. But I don't even wear things that are like outlandish or like super revealing anyway. So if I were to wear something and someone say like you can't wear that and it's not even like anything, that would be a boundary that I'm not willing to sacrifice. So I would probably end that relationship. So if you like, and also there's a difference between like manipulation and setting like a clear genuine boundary, because yeah, a lot of people use it as manipulation. They're like, I don't like when you do this, like trying to use it as like a control factor, like trying to control the other person, not just a trying to, I hope I'm making sense. Like they're trying to like control you rather than just being like, I feel uncomfortable. And so, yeah, if you just try to not place the blame on the other person and just be like, hey, I'm feeling uncomfortable because just something inside of me, or just I'm insecure, whatever. And if you just clearly state that and try to avoid, like I said, sometimes it will be the other person's fault and you can know that and realize that in your own head. But a lot of people don't want to accept accountability and take, because if you just attack them, they might just get defensive and not really hear you out what you have to say. So just make sure if you're trying to set a boundary that you're doing it clearly, ooh, clearly and respectfully. I also found that there are 4 different types of boundaries. There are physical, emotional, time, and information sharing boundaries. So let me start with the physical. Obviously, physical is touch. Like I don't want you to touch me. I don't feel comfortable having sex on the first date. I don't feel comfortable with this, that. Anything that has to do with touching physically would be physical boundaries that you can set. Next is emotional. That would be obviously how you feel. Like it makes me feel sad when you ignore my phone calls or whatever. It makes me feel angry when you do this, do that. Like emotional is anything that you feel that you don't like what the other person's doing, how it makes you feel. The third one is time. Time boundaries is like telling people like if somebody wants to see you or hang out with you at this certain day or this certain time, you tell them, I have this class at 6 o'clock on Tuesdays and Thursdays from 6 to 8. So I cannot do anything during that time. So yeah, anything to do with time. I can't do something this day. Um, that one like people get mad at and you wouldn't think so. Like, because it is hard, especially now that I'm an adult and everybody in my life like is doing everything. Like we all have jobs, some people go to school, some people do this, do that, so it's hard to find time where everybody's like free at the same time. So people do get frustrated when you try and make plans, but no, like say if I'm trying to make plans with a group of like 8 people, it's really hard to find time to find where all 8 people will be free at the same time on the same day because we're all doing stuff. So time boundaries is important. Even a lot in romantic relationships too, like because I think it's so important in relationships to make sure you're making time for yourself, because sometimes I feel like people get so wrapped up in their relationship that they're with their partner every single day. And I think that's pretty unhealthy. I think it's good to be by yourself a lot. So people might get mad if you're like, or if you try and say, like, I have classes on Tuesdays and Thursdays, so I would like an hour or two to myself on those days before my class so I can just have some me time. And some partners are so codependent. Is that the word? Maybe just dependent on, like, people are dependent on their partner. So people might not like that. But, and then the last one is information sharing boundaries, which that one is like, I don't feel comfortable with you telling me that, or some people get grossed out about, I don't really have any information sharing boundaries because nothing is really like, I'm pretty much an open book. Nothing's TMI for me. Nothing makes me uncomfortable. I just don't like when people tell me like negative things, I guess that's like a boundary I have. Like if my mom does this a lot, she's just like telling me a story, but she doesn't realize that like it affects me, I guess. It'll be like she'll just see like a sad thing that happened on the news, like a car accident or something. I'm like, I don't appreciate you telling me that. Like I didn't want to know that. So I guess that could be like an information sharing boundary. But yeah, anything like any topics, like some people get grossed out by like talking about poop or like whatever. Like I appreciate if you don't talk about that. So those are the boundaries: physical, emotional, time, and information sharing. And just it's important to have, I think, a little bit of both, or not both, a little bit of each one. And it's normal, whatever it is, it's normal for you. Like just because some people think it's too extreme of a boundary, whatever, that's their opinion, but it's your boundary that you have to set to make yourself comfortable. So if somebody doesn't agree with your boundary, that's just their problem. And if they don't want to respect that boundary, either you can stop being their friend or they can just decide that they don't want to continue talking to you if that boundary is that big of a deal to them. This one is literally the most important thing. The key to setting boundaries isn't to make someone feel bad. It's to actually do the opposite, and it's to strengthen the bond by being honest, authentic, having open communication, and having trust as well. That's another miscommunication that a lot of people have, and that's what I'm saying. A lot of people sometimes will feel guilty or bad for setting boundaries, or vice versa. The person who you're trying to set the boundary with might start feeling guilty because they feel like it's something that they did, and then they will get all defensive and everything. That's why I was saying earlier to try to avoid placing blame on anyone. But if you find yourself trying to set a boundary with someone and they're having a hard time respecting it, or listening to it, or they're feeling like attacked by it, just say that I'm not trying to make you feel bad or guilty. I'm just trying to openly communicate with you honestly and openly, and I just want to be authentic. And I think to be in a strong relationship, I you need to trust me and I need to trust you, and I trust you by opening up and telling you this boundary, and I just would want you to respect that. And that might help a lot because that was something I found interesting when I was like just reading more into this. I was like, yes, like cuz some people do like really get offended when you try and like set boundaries with them. So it's like, oh, like I was saying the example earlier, like I'm the grandmother so I can do this, or it's like, well, I'm your boyfriend so I can say whatever, like what this, and it's just like, no, that's not how it works. That's not how it should work. And if you get upset, or if the person gets upset, say, I'm not trying to like, I'm trying to do this for me, and be open and honest and tell you how something makes me feel. And I would appreciate it if we could, if you would respect my boundary. Let's see. Setting boundaries is about self care. It is about putting yourself and your needs first. And a lot of people don't do that, and a lot of people have a hard time doing that. So I think just remembering that it is, when you are setting a boundary, you are caring about yourself, and you are putting your needs and you're prioritizing yourself. And that is already a step in the right direction, because growth and all of that is not a linear process, and you're going to have fallbacks and everything, and that's just a part of life. And so, but the more you can set boundaries, the better you will, or the more you will start to find yourself and what you really want, and especially out of your relationships. And so yeah, setting boundaries is caring about yourself and your well-being and your emotional state and your needs. Another thing too is you are responsible for your feelings only. And I don't mean this in a way of like, you can say the fucking most hurtful thing to somebody and it's like, well, if that hurt their feelings, that's a them problem. I only need to worry about how I feel. No, that is not what I mean at all. You should never say anything rude to people ever. You should only be open, honest, and there's just no reason for that. What I mean by you are responsible for your feelings only is for setting boundaries. Like if you are trying to communicate clearly, respectfully, and without trying to put the blame, and you're just trying to explain how something makes you feel, and somebody gets mad at you for that, that is not your responsibility. The fact that that person got mad and took it personally and all of that stuff is not your responsibility. The only thing you're responsible for is your feelings, and that's the only thing that you can control as well, is your feelings. You can't control how other people are going to react to anything. So as long as you are trying to communicate your boundaries respectfully, I don't think that there is anything that you can do. So just remember that when you are feeling bad for trying to set a boundary, or if somebody else made you feel bad, remember that that is out of your control and it was something that was on your mind and you were feeling like you needed to set a boundary for, and that you're only responsible for how you feel. And you should be proud of yourself for trying to set that boundary because you were putting your feelings and needs first. And the last thing is to ground yourself slash figure out what you really want. And what I mean by that is because a lot of people don't even set boundaries because, like I was saying, like me in like middle school and high school, I just like was that people pleaser so badly, and didn't even set any boundaries. I just literally let, oh my gosh, I wonder if you guys can hear that on the microphone. Okay, it doesn't look like it was picking it up. That was the hugest gust of wind ever. I literally was flying a kite today, actually, because of the wind. It was so nice. And guys, okay, this is way off topic. Today, it was literally a high of 77 degrees. It's literally a summer day. You guys can see I literally got sunburnt on my shoulders. That's like the only thing that got sunburnt. But I got a little sunburnt. And we were playing volleyball, and later on I was flying a kite. So it was a good day. But anyway, that gust of wind distracted me and reminded me of that because that was literally so loud. But what I was saying is, like, I literally never even would set boundaries because I didn't even like have enough respect for myself, or just I just wanted other people to be happy and I didn't care how if I was happy or not. So by grounding yourself and getting to know yourself and realizing what you want, what you don't want, and just doing a lot of self-reflection, that can let you know what you want out of life and what you want in your friendships and romantic relationships. And yeah, so that is like the key. Before you even work on setting the boundaries, ground yourself, do some self reflection, and figure out what you really even want. And then you can go about setting your boundaries. And I think the hardest boundary to set, honestly, is with family members, because family members are the ones who usually feel, I'm not talking about from personal experience, but I feel like from stories I've seen and stuff, it is very hard because family members do feel entitled because they are your family. They feel like, oh, well, I can do this because whatever, but they don't really, or they aren't listening that if it makes you feel uncomfortable or not. So, yeah, that is basically what I have written down. I hope that this episode gave you guys the courage to set some more boundaries in your life and make you realize that you shouldn't feel guilty for trying to set boundaries. And yeah, I was just trying to brainstorm a topic for today, and I'm just looking and I was like, ooh, this is a good one because it honestly is something that I personally have struggled with. Not anymore. Now I'm like, especially like with trying to date and like talking to new men. I'm like, absolutely not. This man, actually, let me tell you guys a story. This man, what did he say to me? He literally was like, so when the fuck are we gonna hang out? Whatever. This random man I added on Snapchat from Hinge, like, we've been Snapchatting for like 3 days. He's like, when we gonna hang out? Whatever. But he was like giving attitude. He's like, or am I just gonna sit around? Like, when the fuck are we hang out? And I was like, we're not gonna hang out with that fucking attitude. And he literally is like, my bad for the attitude, whatever. Mind you, these are videos he's sending me. And he says, my bad, whatever for the attitude. Like, just let me know when we can hang out so I can plan it and stuff. Like, I'm trying to crack. I'm trying to eat that pussy. Are you fucking serious? If that's what you wanted, first of all, don't put long-term relationship on your fucking profile. And number two, just absolutely not. Like, what do you mean? We've been talking for 3 days. Maybe say, let's go on a date. Like, I'm trying to crack. Like, please. So I literally was like, if that's what you want, babe, I'm not the one. And I literally said that. But again, that's easier said than done because that's more of like a stranger. Like, you can say to a stranger, like, don't touch me. But it's hard to say to someone that you love and care about. It's harder to set a boundary because you don't want to hurt their feelings, whatever. But anyway, like I said, hope this episode about setting boundaries was helpful to you guys. And don't you think I forgot that I give a little piece of advice or motivation at the end of each episode? And my advice for this episode is for you all to start setting boundaries. And if people don't want to listen, kick them to the curb. If the people in your life that are supposedly the ones who are supposed to love and care about you and respect you can't even respect or acknowledge a simple boundary you're trying to set, bye, hasta la vista, see you never, because those people do not deserve to be in your life if they, because like what I said earlier, I've said that like 100 times, because like what I said earlier, but seriously though, if someone doesn't follow your boundaries or respect them, they don't respect you. So you got to set the boundaries, and if they don't want to listen, that means they don't have any respect for you, and you got to kick them to the curb. And it's a hard lesson to learn, but definitely a helpful one. A lot of people in my life that used to take advantage of me are not in my life anymore, and it feels great and it feels awesome. And just remember to put yourself first and set those boundaries to improve your own personal well-being. So thank you so much for watching this episode. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Turn the post notifications on. That would mean the absolute world. Please comment down below any video suggestions or podcast suggestions you want to see, because I upload twice a week, one podcast and one just other random video. So leave any suggestions for those down below. Also, this episode comes out on my twin brother and sister's birthdays, so please comment down below also and wish them a happy birthday. Their names are Matthew and Morgan, and going to be doing a lot of fun stuff for their birthday this weekend. And yeah, love you all so much. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys on the next video. Bye.